Welcome to Houston Life. I'm Derek Shore.
And I'm Jennifer Broom. Our first guest is always on the hunt for forgotten pieces of Houston history.
He sure is. From headlines of the past to memorable photos, he says there's always a new story to find and share about Houston. J.R. Gonzalez from Bayou City History and the Houston Chronicle is joining us now. Hey, J.R.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming in. So you've been at the Chronicle for about 10 years, and I understand you started this blog about 10 years ago, and it just took off on Facebook and Twitter. So you essentially post old headlines, post old photos. What do you think it is about that caught on like wildfire?
It's just so much of Houston's history has not been explored fully, and I think this gives me a chance to sort of resurface some of those moments in Houston's past that we might have forgotten or never even knew about. And that's kind of the appeal, what appeals to me about it.
Where do you find this stuff, by the way?
It's all in the Chronicle morgue for the most part. Photos.
Wait, the Chronicle morgue?
We call it a morgue. It's kind of a newspaper thing, but it's kind of a...
The archive?
Archive,
You have dead people at the Chronicle? Wow. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Here first.
No, we call it in newspaper parlance, it's called a morgue, but it's really an archive, and it's full of clips, photos, microfilm, and I just use that as sort of the source material for the stuff I find.
So you just decide, like, you know what, today I think I'm going to look up, like, July 26, 1936?
That's absolutely how it's done. Yes.
Is that really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So you're looking for a specific date, and then you see what happened on that date.
Correct. Correct. And I'm just as interested in sort of the three-paragraph story that was buried inside the newspaper versus like the
headline.
Yes.
Okay,
So let's go back 30 years ago.
Yes. What I do is every month I go back into the archive 30 years ago to see what was interesting back then, and I bring it back out for audiences today.
Very, very cool. Okay, so you brought a bunch of photos with you today. Let's start with this first photo from Prince's Restaurant 30 years ago in 1987.
Yes. Now this photo here is of Prince's Restaurant. If you may recall.
Oh, look at
up there on
that.
the screen
Okay.
right now.
Well, if you recall, this particular Prince's Restaurant was located off of South Main, just a few blocks down from the Sears store, where Sears is at now. The reason why we photographed this was because Metro was thinking about putting a light rail through the area.
Oh.
And so this spot, the Prince's Hamburger joint, was in the way. And if you think about it now, don't go there looking for it now because it's gone, because there is a Metro rail line that cuts right through it.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Okay, so
we do tear a lot of stuff down here in Houston.
Yeah, very quickly, yeah. So let's go on to our photo number 2. It's an Exxon station at 5710 Memorial.
Yeah, well, if I can find an old station that shows old photo that shows gas prices,
82 cents.
Okay, wait. I was excited a couple of weeks ago to get gas for $1.89.
Yeah, really.
Wow.
Oh.
If I can find an old photo of gas prices, I will run it every single time, just to sort of highlight the change between then and now.
Holy cow, 30 years.
This particular station was at Memorial and off of Memorial Drive.
So in that company, Exxon did, that was also the year when the company, Exxon, made the announcement that they were discontinuing the sale of leaded gasoline.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at that point, that's when unleaded became the standard. All right, this next photo on the screen, that's Gilligan.
Oh, Gilligan's Island.
Well, this photo, it's not so much as who is in the photo, but where the photo was taken. Now, of course, we got Bob Denver, Tina Louise, Gilligan's Island, but they're at Greens Point Mall. And just to show the change and how much has changed between Greens Point Mall then and now. Obviously, there's also Atomic Can. I don't even remember Atomic Can. Greens Point
Those
Mall,
have been gone for a while now.
Greens Point Mall was my mall growing up, and so I kind of have a fondness toward it. So to see such activity and see folks like Gilligan and Ginger over there, it just brings back a lot of memories.
For folks that don't know where Greens Point Mall was, where was it?
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's off of 45 and Beltway 8.
Okay.
45 and Beltway, on the north side of Houston.
A bit aged at this point. Okay, so Shamrock Hilton was demolished 30 years ago.
Yes.
May 31st, 1987, and we have just the very beginnings of that demolition in this photo.
That is when demolition started. The Shamrock Hilton, or the Hilton folks, sold the hotel. There was really no use for it at the time, despite protests from residents, longtime residents. So you got to imagine, though, about the Shamrock is that it wasn't imploded in like 30 seconds. It was over the course of the summer, it was taken down floor by floor.
Wow.
And so I can only imagine if you're living back then and that's along your route, to see it go down every single day.
See, I think it's going to be interesting for you, like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, looking this year with all the Super Bowl stuff that was put up.
Oh, yeah.
And everything
Yeah.
downtown created then. Okay, let's go on to our photo number 5.
This is the Houston Auto Show.
Yes.
Houston Auto Show. This is the Buick. I can't remember what the name of the Buick was.
It was the Wildcat.
Buick Wildcat concept car. Okay. You know, 30 years. I'm still waiting for a car like that on Houston's roads.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, that could be a photo from the auto show today if you ignored all the older models in the background.
That's true.
We still see concept cars that look
all the time.
That's true. I'm still waiting on that. I would love to see a car that opens up like that.
Okay, let's talk a little music. One of my all-time favorites, U2 and Bono.
Well, you remember that a few months ago, or actually, I think back in May, U2 played NRG Stadium to promote the 30th anniversary of
Joshua Tree.
the Joshua Tree album. This photo was when it was actually a new album, and they're performing, and it's Bono on stage at the summit performing songs from the Joshua Tree when it was
The streets have no name.
Yes.
In God's country.
Yes.
I know the album well.
And of course, the summit's now Lakewood Church. So.
Very, very cool. Bono's changed just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So, JR, talk to us a little bit about some of the upcoming features you have at the Chronicle. The 100th anniversary of the Houston riots.
Of the 1917 Houston riot. We're going to be doing an article on that. That's about at the end of next month. We're looking at just sort of that and how that's kind of been forgotten from Houston history. It's really one of the worst moments in Houston's past.
And the image that we're seeing that we just saw on camera now, that was an actual still of the front page.
That was the Chronicle front page. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it harder when you say go back 50, 75, 100 years to find things?
Not necessarily. No. It just depends on how obscure the news event was, or how well known it was. With stuff like this, like the Camp Logan riot or the Houston riot, there's no photos obviously from back then, so we have to rely on printed material, maps, and all of that.
And the morgue. By the way, if Jennifer and I want to come look around the morgue sometime,
anytime.
Give us a tour. Hey guys, if you want to connect with JR, just look for Bayou City History on Facebook and Twitter, and on HoustonChronicle.com. Thank you so much, JR, for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Interesting.
Thanks for having me.